All right, so Walmart just did a brand refresh, and in case you missed it, here's everything you need to know. I'm not going to go into super detail of every single thing that changed, but I'm just going to cover high level things that you'll notice. So this is the old wordmark and Spark. This is what we know as their logo right now, and this is the new wordmark and the new Spark. And so, if I just look at this alone, if I just saw this, I probably wouldn't even be able to tell that they did a rebrand. So let's look at it side by side. So the word mark side by side, the first thing you'll notice is the blue is a deeper blue. It's a darker blue. So the second thing you'll notice is that the W here, and like all the letters are actually a little bit thicker in this version versus this one. And then the other thing is like the W here has like a little bit of a rounding right here, and then the A also has a little bit of a rounding here. This is more blocky over here. So same thing with the A here. It doesn't have that little round thing over here. So that is, those are a couple changes we see in the Walmart word mark. Now the Spark is even more subtle than that. So like even that, like unless I'm seeing it side by side, I'm not going to notice that. But now if I go to the Spark, even looking at it side by side, I can barely tell the difference. So, and I apologize for the blurriness. I didn't realize it'd be this blurry when I blew it up, but it looked better when it was smaller, of course. Anyway, the difference here is that the orange is a little bit of a different color. It's a little bit of a darker orange, but it's so subtle, it's like hard to see. The other thing is that, or sorry, I should say brighter orange. And then the other thing is that these lines here, they're a little bit more curved, very subtle, very hard to notice, but they're a little bit more curved. And so I'm going to read through some of the highlights and these are bullet points that I copy pasted from the actual press release. So you can read that in your own time. I'll leave the link in the description, but just a couple things I want to highlight here. The word mark, the inspiration for that is Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart's trucker hat that he would wear. And so here is that trucker hat. You'll see it has that same kind of blocky font there. And of course, this is their old logo, which used to have a hyphen. They got rid of that. And so that's kind of the inspiration there. Another couple of things I wanted to point out is that this idea of heritage comes up a few times, and also this idea of being relatable and approachable. And then moving on, this is also taken from the press release. They want to be known for their digital first services. So right now, when we think of Walmart, most people like myself are not thinking of Walmart for their digital first services. We're thinking of the brick and mortar stores that they have. And so they want to evolve and be more known for their digital online services that they have. So here is what they have on their brand guidelines about the Spark. So the original Spark was introduced to the world in 2008. Our new Spark has been refreshed and redrawn with organic curves that feel, again, here are those keywords, approachable and less rigid. And so you can see here, it's a very subtle difference. Like even over here, since it's small, it's hard to tell, but you can tell with these little kind of lines here, how it kind of gets a little bit, less straight, a little bit more curved. And then going to the word mark, it says, while our Spark can be used as a standalone logo, this is another key theme here in this kind of update, is that the Spark is now a standalone logo. I don't know if it was like that before, but I definitely would always see the Walmart word mark with the Spark. So in this rebrand, it seems like they're making it a very clear, they want it to be very separate, and they want to be very clear about that. So one of the things that I found interesting about this word mark is if you go to the don'ts of this word mark, it actually says don't lock up the Spark to the left of the word mark, don't lock it up above the word mark, and don't lock it up to the right. And so that's a little bit, interesting. It seems like they're trying to separate the Spark from the word mark and kind of make them their own kind of thing. And so as we see here is like the storefront that we see nowadays. The Spark is almost always directly to the right. Sometimes it's above, but it's always there within the vicinity of the Walmart actual word mark. And this is the mock-up that they have for the new one. So you can see the word mark is on one side, and then the Spark is like separated by like a bunch of space, and then you have the Spark. And so it seems like they're really trying to separate the Spark from the word mark. So my thoughts, this is a pretty subtle refresh, as you guys can see. If it ain't broke, don't fix it seems to be the mentality here. One of the people I saw on Reddit commented that this is just a touch up, not an identity change, which I think captured the essence perfectly. So the next thing is that this really just feels like a natural evolution into a digital first environment. So when I first saw that the color is higher contrast, the first thought that comes to my mind is that they're optimizing for digital experiences. So on the screen, you have to have these very small favicons, you have small app logos or icons, whatever you want to call it, and you have very kind of small spaces where you have to have your logo stand out. And so for those spaces, having high contrast really helps because it really stands out when you have high contrast versus like if you have something that's not as high contrast, it doesn't stand out in those small spaces. And so another thing that seems to be happening is that the spark and the word mark are getting divorced. PayPal did something similar to this in 2024 last year, where they released a brand refresh, and they separated their 2P symbol from their actual word mark. And so this seems to have a similar vibe here. One of the things that I found interesting was that, they mentioned a lot about being relatable and approachable. And the spark is obviously a little bit more round and, quote unquote, approachable. But the word mark is thicker and more blocky, which is the opposite of round and approachable. So it looks like what they did is with the spark, they went for round and approachable. And with the word mark, they went for just the history aspect of it, the heritage, the nostalgia factor. So the last thing that comes to mind for me is that this is a mixture of some of the branding trends we've been seeing for the last few years. Number one is the history nostalgia element. We're seeing this all over the place. Just some examples that come to mind is that, a lot of these brands that existed in the past are coming back with a new twist to them. So like the Hummer, for example, the Blazer, Bronco, Scout's coming back now. A lot of examples of kind of historic brands that were popular in the past now coming back with a little bit of a twist. And so this kind of, with that Walmart and the Sam Walton hat font is kind of like a symbol to the nostalgia, the history aspect of it. And then the other thing is the symbol and word mark divorce, right? Like separating your symbol from the actual word mark is another trend that we've been seeing for the last few years here. And I think that's just going to continue happening more and more as more and more brands try to optimize for a digital first experience. Okay, so my question to you is that this seems like a very small and subtle change. Why go through all the headache? Why go through all the effort? Why spend millions of dollars to change all your stores, signage and everything just for such a subtle change? Do you think it's worth it? Why are they doing this? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.